to our latest edition of In the Hot Seat, our series of panel discussions focusing on how technology is solving today's problems. These panel discussions are part of ScanSource's Discover Opportunity initiative, which is intended to help you, our partners, find more opportunities within specific areas of our business. I'm Kyle DeWitt, Vice President of Technical Services here at ScanSource, and I'm pleased to be joined today by a couple of industry experts from our suppliers who will help you discover opportunities in modern communications or remote work or productivity anywhere within your customer base. So our goal today is to help identify some trends in which technology is being used to enable a remote workforce, and hopefully you can use those to capitalize on opportunities with your customers. So let's start by meeting our panelists. We have John Paddock and Ron Anderson joining us from Cisco and Zebra, respectively. John, why don't you start with an introduction? Who are you and what do you do?
Absolutely. Thanks, Kyle. My name is John Paddock. I'm a product sales specialist for Cisco Meraki. It focuses on the global enterprise accounts. I focus also exclusively on Meraki as a technology set, cloud-managed networking, cloud-managed IoT services as well. And excited to be here talking mobile work.
Yeah, thank you. And Ron, John's been here a couple of times, but you're a new face for me and a new face for the series. What's your role at Zebra?
Yeah, so as you stated earlier, my name is Ron Anderson. I run North America sales as part of our software as a solution team. I focus primarily on the North America engagements for our Workforce Connect product, which is a voice collaboration solution that wouldn't provide any value to anybody if it wasn't for John's wireless network. So
we got some synergies already. This is going to be awesome.
That's right.
Yeah, buzzword bingo already threw out the word synergy. Okay, so let's dive in. So we've got a lot. We're recording this near the end of calendar 2022. We've talked a lot about remote work and how to enable your workforce wherever they are to be productive. There's studies out the wazoo giving us big stats like the Randstad Work Monitor report that said 75% of employees are saying flexible work is important. We've got some other big numbers out there around who's going home, who's forcing employees back into the office, et cetera, et cetera. But this proliferates all industries. So this isn't specific to what we normally think of, like the enterprise office worker, healthcare now. We talk a lot about how we're enabling remote work in those spaces, but everyone is going remote. Utilities are going remote. You name it, retail going remote. So let's maybe start, John, with you. Where are you guys seeing some technology being implemented to enable remote workforces that maybe aren't the ones that we would just obviously think of when we start talking about where employees do their jobs?
Yeah, absolutely. We're seeing it all over the place, and as you mentioned, I mean, it's more than just a shift. It's a workplace revolution, really. The amount of people that are shifting to this mode, that are now relying on this mode for their motion, and the companies that rely on the workers on this is just huge. And there's no unpacking that. I mean, that's out, and that's the way it's going to be moving forward. Now, you said not so obvious, but obvious to us is always going to be security. And you always want to make sure that the data that your employees are working with, the systems they're able to connect to, are secure. But beyond just the increased need for security, because more people are outside the office, it's also coincides with an increase in attacks. Now, this is something we've talked about on this show before, but in the first 6 months after the pandemic, ransomware attacks were up 600% on small and medium businesses, not just movie studios and pipelines, but small and medium businesses. It's never been easier to attack these companies based on the type of threats that they're putting together, and it's never been easier to access based on just the number of channels of communication that can get disrupted. So security is absolutely huge on our side to make sure we're getting in front of these bad actors and covering every tunnel of information that is traveling between your workers at home and your home base or the cloud of your choice. Now, another one that's not so obvious is a huge growing field of mobile device management. Now, this is huge for a couple use cases. One of them being, okay, I have a new worker and I'm going to send them a device to work on. You want to make sure you have mobile device management on that to make sure that you control everything going on with that device. And I'm not talking about Big Brother, but I'm talking about making sure that software updates happen automatically, security updates happen automatically, security protocols are up to date. Workers famously avoid making those updates because they just want to get to work. Being able to control when and how those updates happen is huge. And then also, should a worker go AWOL or no longer be with the company, you want to be able to control that device and make sure nothing nefarious is going on with it. And the other side of that is, if you're in a situation where you're asking people to use their own resources, whether it be their cell phones, their tablets, or their home computer, mobile device management can still be utilized there in a limited capacity to make sure that you're controlling the applications that are necessary for them to connect to the company without disrupting the rest of their personal device. So that's just a couple areas where we've seen some pretty big growth and focus on the Meraki side with our partner community.
Yeah, we had an interesting, very recent, which I can't believe it took so long for this to happen, experience here with our local county public school system, where all of the kids who have been issued Chromebooks were home one day for, I don't remember what the occasion was, but it became a school from home day. And someone sent an email to every registered student in the county that had ever been in a Zoom meeting, and it was just a simple "Hey, how's it going?" message, and then you had thousands of teenagers riffing off this. So within hours, the centralized IT organization for the local county had pushed policy out, shut it down. Anyway, so it was a very weird. I laughed as I saw it play out because it was a very interesting hole that they had allowed to exist in their policies. But if it weren't for MDM and global policies and all those types of things, that it would have been much more of a mess than it was. So anyway, Ron, how about you? What are you guys seeing at Zebra?
It's funny what the pandemic has done to the edge worker, if you will. So we talk a lot about people going remote, but what about what happens in both retail as well as other industries now that the pandemic has settled down and you're trying to encourage people to come back to work? Retailers are trying to do more with less. They don't have enough employees to staff a store. So how are you providing the highest degree of customer service with fewer and fewer resources to do it with? That's where a lot of people are driving toward, how do I better enable those frontline associates with mobile tools, with the solutions that allow us to collaborate back and forth. So now you don't have to be the subject matter expert, but you have access at your fingertips to the subject matter expert in order to satisfy the customer, driving that enhanced efficiency with a smaller workforce. It's a tremendous challenge. And, it's interesting, the conversation pivoted to, using your own asset versus a corporate owned asset. We're spending a lot of time at Zebra trying to figure out, how do we serve those unserved hands, right? And how do we put software on a non-enterprise grade solution?
Yeah.
The good news is it's software. And when you're talking about iOS and Android being the industry standards, it helps reshape the thinking in order to provide that value add based on the demographic of the user.
Yeah, we had a shift in personal devices, I guess, years ago. 5, 6 more years ago, we were all talking about BYOD, and now we're in a position where, well, that's an obvious. You have to be able to work from your personal asset. But there are lots of really good reasons to have purpose-built hardware in certain places, like tablets within a warehouse or whatever. Like you don't want those employees using their own phones or their own iPads or whatever. So yeah, that's been a big thing for a while now, and it's interesting to see it shift back a little bit away from personal devices being the conversation, because like I said, those seem to be a given now. You know that they're going to be on your network. You know that you're going to have to account for it. but also we're still building purpose-built equipment. So Ron, tell me a little bit about who you're having these conversations with, or who are the partners having conversations with? Where are the decision makers that are helping drive these technology decisions?
Yeah, I think we're seeing a shift as we're trying to satisfy the needs that appear to happen on the frontline worker. Traditionally, Zebra being a hardware-based company, you know, a lot of the requirements for things like warehouse management systems, ERPs, on and on and on and on, the software is already embedded. I just need the right form factor for the edge worker with a set number of requirements, and those can be handed to IT, and it becomes an IT decision to figure out, how do I get the most horsepower for the least amount of money? What we're finding now is, as you stated, form factors are changing, and the variety of different things are out there, from wearing a lapel badge to a wearable to a tablet to a handheld. Those are really being targeted to, or those needs are being surfaced by the operations side of the business. So somebody in store operations is no longer saying, I want a brick on a stick to be my multi-purpose device because it's clunky and it's difficult to walk around with. I want something that's going to accommodate this type of worker, that type of worker, and a front of store concierge type thing, which means 3 different form factors. And then when you layer software on top of that, you have to be able to demonstrate the value chain in what that software is going to provide. So we're really now finding that our customer is pivoting. We have to get more and more in front of those frontline operational leaders in order to help them show the art of what's possible, or see the art of what's possible,
Yeah.
and then help them drive those requirements into the IT buying group.
Yeah, I think that's the first time I've heard brick on a stick. That's a new one for my vernacular. I'm gonna have to add
Well,
that one.
if you know Zebra, those huge scanners that
Oh, yeah.
look like a brick with a trigger on it. I mean,
yeah. Well, John, we talk all the time about security, and you already mentioned MDM. So that doesn't sound like a frontline worker conversation. Who are you guys talking to about the need for security and moving apps to the cloud and all that kind of stuff, securing the edge? How are your partners getting into those conversations?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think, as Ron said, the type of context of the customer that we're reaching out to for that are diversifying quite a bit. So if we're talking about, a SASE solution for security for your mobile workers, we're often dealing with the same IT or network admin crew at the customer that we usually do. Those are your same contexts. That's bread and butter. But some of our other use cases for those very same security solutions are actually coming in the form of unified communications. So for example, if you're running, I'll use WebEx for an example. If you use WebEx communications, you use WebEx calling, fantastic system, enterprise built, made it so you can make all your phone calls and all your collaboration calls from home seamlessly. That's great. But that experience is only as good as the connection that is provided for that experience. So there's products on the Meraki side, Meraki Insight, that actually are going to focus on the lines that are going to mobile calling and the lines that are going to mobile collaboration, and they're going to aggressively track the latency, jitter, and loss of each individual connection to make sure that the quality of that communication from home or from wherever you are is at the highest level. And if it's not at the highest level, you can use that same security device to make corrections in the load balancing, put the bandwidth in the right place so that these type of conversations are never interrupted. Now, those are fantastic use cases that is going to provide a thorough solution for anyone who's putting together a hybrid work conversation. But that is a conversation that you're having simultaneously with the communications department and with the IT department because of the dual purpose of the solution. And that doesn't even begin to say the type of conversations we're having with facilities managers now when we're talking about cameras and IoT devices. So, to Ron's point, I think that my recommendation for the partner community is that the partners that we've had the most success with in driving the most thorough solutions for their customers and what happens to be the highest revenue plays for our partners as well has been partners that have been able to deliver complete solutions by utilizing multiple departments within the customer to show that this really is a solution that can reach all areas of the business and improve so many of them in a very meaningful way.
Yeah, it's interesting on that point, just to dovetail on that. We tend to get very comfortable with the people that will talk to us, right? And those are sometimes that limits you. The importance of having that unified communication experience, because that's also the product set that I represent. The voice over IP experience is mission critical, whether it's voice over wireless LAN or voice over a data channel in a cellular environment. And field mobility and those remote workers that are looking for those types of solutions are talking a very different language than those people that are looking for inside the four walls within the warehouse or within the retail environment, or in healthcare where you've got a hybrid of people that are both outside of the four walls and inside the four walls. So the more you can engage a variety of personas within your sales pursuits, the stronger the value add you're positioning yourself to provide.
Yeah, and I would say for our partners being the audience here that Ron, you just hit it on the head that, we fall into what we're comfortable with. And sometimes that's not only the relationships we have, but also the products that we're representing. And if we get too far out over our skis on what the customer needs, sometimes it's a lot easier just to go like, I'm not comfortable with that, or that's not a core competency of my company. I'm willing to pass on that part of the opportunity, but I'll focus on this. And what we're trying to do with this series and all the content we create is say, no, go after it. Go after more. We can help you. Cisco and Zebra can help you. ScanSource can help you. We're here to help open your eyes to what those other opportunities are out there, and then leverage our engineering teams, our pre-sales teams, our field teams to go help you partner. So there's a stat for every story you want to tell out there. We've seen a bunch of things around senior management or executive management saying, we know we're in this remote work environment, but we're still not comfortable with it. We need help. Partners, your customers need your help. Go in, ask the questions, ask the probing questions, get deeper into the organization. The cost of messing up remote work is insanely expensive. It's insane, not only from a security risk standpoint, but undoing some bad deployments is very costly. So go help your customers, get in there early. Like I said, have those probing conversations. So I'm going to close this out. Ron and John, again, thank you for joining us for a quick conversation today about being productive anywhere. And as I said in the opener, we've got this content and a lot more out on the scansource.com site. Go under Discover Opportunity, and you'll see this conversation as well as all the other ones that we've done in specific vertical markets throughout the years. So one last thank you, Ron and John, for joining us today. With that, I'll sign us off. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Kyle. Thanks, Ron.